This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, hello there. It's Joker Donovan from doing the Sports Catastrophe Birthday Boy. Now, I was thinking about doing this Birthday Boy last year, but I landed on someone much better, that being Pat Burns. Now, I know this guy's dead, and I know he died a long time ago, over 5 decades he's been dead, but still, he was born April 4th, and he is a legend. And in fact, you know, he was one of the greatest players not to be in the Baseball Hall of Fame, but now he did in 2022. He was finally posthumously inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 2022. He's a legend. His name is Gil Hodges, who played 18 years in the major leagues and played all but a few years with the Dodgers organization before going to the Mets. He was basically the first baseman of the 1950s, if you will. And he looked pretty good. He was actually second in home runs and RBI during the 1950s, only trailing one Duke Snider. Not Mickey Mantle, that was surprisingly. And Miguel Hodges was a sensation and all that. He won 3 Gold Gloves. So anyway, he was born in Princeton, Indiana, the son to a coal miner. He was signed by the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1943. Of course, this is way before the baseball draft was invented, and played for the Dodgers for 1 game. And then he went to the Marine Corps, becoming an anti-aircraft gunner, and participated in the battles of Tinian and Okinawa. Actually got a Bronze Star for his efforts. Then he would go to Oakland City University and all that. Well, anyway, Hodges was discharged from the Marine Corps in 1946 and returned to the Dodgers organization as a catcher. He went to the Piermont League, and the first baseman was a future film and TV star Chuck Connors. Anyway, Hodges was called up to Brooklyn in 1947, playing as a catcher. And then Hodges was sent to first base because of Roy Campanella's prowess. So Hodges was a catcher, but then went to first base. He was a pitch hitter in Game 7 of the 1947 World Series, but struck out. In his true rookie season in 1948, in that year, he batted .249 with 11 home runs and 70 RBIs. And then in 1949, he started being good. He was part of 7 consecutive All-Star teams. He put up 115 RBIs, which was 4th in the National League. And it looked pretty good. He was good defensively and all of that. But unfortunately, he struck out to end the 1949 World Series. In 1950, he put up 4 home runs in 1 game, which was shocking. In fact, only him and Lou Gehrig at that point hit 4 home runs in a game without the benefit of extra innings. And he got them off 4 different pitchers, with the first being Warren Spahn. He put up 17 total bases, 4 home runs and a single, making him having 17, tied for 3rd in MLB history. But yeah, 4 home runs in 1 game, that's amazing. I know Carlos Delgado did it, and Josh Hamilton did it. There's plenty of people who did 4 home runs in 1 game. Anywho, he was good at fielding, .994 fielding percentage, which was good. In 1950, he was 8th in MVP voting, trying to get the Dodgers to the World Series, but they lost to Philly on the last weekend of the season. And then he put up 40 home runs, the first Dodger to do so. Anyhow, it was a game of hot potato. So Gil Hodges looked pretty good and all that. So Hodges was a fan favorite. A lot of people said Hodges was basically the only Dodgers regular never booed at Ebbets Field, which was shocking because, Brooklyn fans are passionate. They actually booed Duke Snider. But anyway, he went through a terrible slump in the 1952 World Series. He played all 7 games of that World Series. He went donut for 21. And Brooklyn fans were not too keen on it. Instead of booing him or chiding him, they actually gave him good luck gifts. And Hodges would actually hit pretty good. So yeah, so Gil Hodges did his job and all that. But yeah, he took 5th in RBI in 1953 in the NL. Hodges looked pretty good for himself. And then his production would decline. I mean, he is getting older. But it declined to a 289 average, 27 home runs, 102 RBIs. People would kill to have 100 RBIs in a season. So anyway, he was 1 for 12 the first 3 games before coming around. So yeah, so the first 3 games were terrible. But by game 4, he came back. He put up a big 2-run home run and a RBI single later. And he actually drove in Roy Campanella in game 7 with the eventual winning run of that game because the Dodgers won 2-0 at Yankee Stadium in game 7 of the 55 World Series. And Brooklyn finally got a World Series title. They were not, wait till next year. This is next year. Hodges would put up 32 home runs for the 56 squad that nearly won the pennant in the NL and went to the World Series in game 7. He did have some pretty good games and all that. He put up a 3-run home run in game 1, 4 RBIs in game 2, and getting 4 RBIs in game. Oh yeah, well the 4 RBIs. So yeah, he did pretty good. And then he was just that good. In fact, Gil Hodges drove in the last Dodgers run ever at Ebbets Field and the last run in Brooklyn history. Anyway, before they moved to Los Angeles. However, let's not forget that Brooklyn was not going to relocate at first, but because of how dilapidated the stadium was, the fans didn't want to go downtown, parking was a bitch, and the fact that Los Angeles was being coy about it, and with the fact the Giants were going to San Francisco, the Brooklyn Dodgers went to LA. But anyway, yeah, he was still pretty good as a first baseman and all that. So anyway, Gil Hodges led the Dodgers to the 1959 World Series against the White Sox, winning it. So he won the World Series for the Dodgers. Gil Hodges put up a lot of great efforts and all that. It was basically Gil Hodges and Duke Snider trying to get the best offensive numbers in Dodgers history. The Dodgers let him unprotected him for the expansion draft, and the Mets, being one of the first National League expansion team, picked him up. He actually hit the first home run in Mets history, but the 62 Mets were dismal, 40 and 120. So they only had a 250 win percentage, or basically they won only once every 4 games. He only played 54 games for the 62 Mets. He would play for the Mets for 11 games in 1963, but then got traded to Washington for Jimmy Pearsall. It was a move that actually got Gil Hodges to be Washington's manager. So he did all that. Hodges would manage Washington through 1967. Never got a winning record, but still got Washington to better marks every year. Then the Mets needed him, so they decided to make him the manager in 1968 and put up 73 wins, which at the time was their best mark, saying something. However, the Mets in 1969, man, can you believe that season? Anyway, it was huge and all that. After Cleon Jones failed to hustle after a ball hit to the outfield, Gil Hodges removed him from the game. But Gil Hodges himself walked all the way to left field to yank Cleon Jones. and would walk back to the dugout, which was a resounding message to the whole team. And, the Mets gelled under him. They shocked everyone by coming back in September to overtake the Cubs for the East lead. The Mets went to the World Series against Baltimore, lost game one, but still won 4 straight. Thanks to their defense. I mean, not Cleon Jones, but Tommy Agee and my mind is like blown in proportion. Ron Swoboda, that's it. Cleon Jones actually kind of did win the game. World Series for the Mets. The shoe polish play in Game 5. So he shocked out a lot of people. The Mets not only became the first expansion team to win the World Series, they were the first team to win the World Series after finishing 15 plus games under 500 the previous year. Hodges was named the manager of the year and would platoon his players, utilizing everyone in the dugout and keeping everyone fresh. Hodges would be the Mets manager for a few more years, but unfortunately, there was a humongous shock in store. Easter Sunday, April 2nd, 1972. Hodges was in West Palm Beach, completing a round of golf with Mets coaches, but he collapsed en route to his motel room. Unfortunately, Hodges got a sudden heart attack and died 20 minutes after he got to the hospital. It was amazing. Hodges fell backwards and hit his head on the sidewalk with a sickening knock, turning blue and bleeding profusely. Hodges actually was a chain smoker that kind of led to his heart attack and all that. And lots of Brooklyn Dodger alumni, like Jackie Robinson and Roy Campanella, said that, he was the heart of the Brooklyn Dodgers. I mean, Duke Snyder could have been good too. All that. It just was shattered. I mean, the funeral was on Hodges' 48th birthday. Well, it would have been his 48th birthday, and 10,000 mourners were in things. Anyway, he was survived by his wife, who lived till 2022, amazingly, Joe Lombardi, having 3 children, Gil Jr., Irene, Cynthia, and Barbara. I think they're all alive still, the Hodges family. Anyway, Yogi Berra would then become the Mets the manager, and all that. And the Mets would wear black armbands on their left arms during the entire 1972 season. The Mets would honor Hodges in 1973 by retiring his number 14. And shockingly, the Dodgers, it took until June 2022 for them to retire Gil Hodges' number 14, despite the fact that he was a Brooklyn Dodgers icon and should have had his number retired earlier. Hodges finished at 273 batting average with almost 2,000 hits. He got 1,921 hits, 1,274 RBIs, 370 home runs. His 361 home runs with the Dodgers still is second all time, only to Duke Snyder's 389. Anyway, he was an icon and all of that. He even has a few bridges named after him and all that. There was actually a 30-minute documentary called The Gil Hodges Story, Soul of a Champion, and features interviews with Vince Scully, Tommy Lasorda, Carl Erskine, Gil Hodges Jr., and members of the 69 Mets. Shockingly, Scully and Lasorda would die in 2022. And there was consideration for him in the Hall of Fame, but why he wasn't, it was like awkward. All that. He was one of the finest players of the 50s. So anyway, it was just shocking, all that. So anyway, he first appeared in the 1969 ballot and only had 15 chances. Highest percentage was 63%. So the Veterans Committee even had chances in 03, 05, 07, and 09, but he never hit past 65%. Then he became a Golden Era candidate from 1947 to 1972. He missed out a couple of times. Fortunately, though, he just snuck out 12 out of 16 votes, and the Golden Days era ballot consideration is that he was named to the Hall of Fame formally last July. So Gil Hodges is still a Brooklyn Dodgers icon. You can believe that. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.